Alright, the lighting is like not perfect for this, but you can see this thumb release. This is my hunting thumb release. But what I'm talking about when I mention what these things do, this is one of the original 2-finger releases that you can put a 3rd finger on here, but this thing is really just for support, and a lot of guys shoot it just like this. But the thing you look for, and the thing you really pay for, the reason these things are so expensive, is you can see how that jaw closes there. But the thing you pay for is what's internal to these things. Like, there's no travel. And what I mean by that is, you see this thumb button, it does not move. It is pressure activated. So you're going to see that jaw open when I put a certain amount of pressure, but it doesn't actually travel. Like, this button doesn't really move. So you press this to lock it, so it's nice because you can just leave it on your bow, and then it's just there when you need it. You don't have to like clip in or worry about being clipped in, which is a huge plus. I do not miss having to have my strap kind of like locked into the loop at all times while I'm sitting in the stand. I like to move my hands around. I like to grab my phone or just do other things. So this one's nice. This one has a heavier trigger. And I'll see if you can kind of just watch the button here as I pull. So it'll just, all of a sudden you'll hear the click and it'll move. But I'm putting pressure on it right now. More pressure. And then all of a sudden it just went off. So that is what you pay for mechanically to do that. There has to be hardened, very sharp pieces inside, springs and everything that does the right thing. What this does, though, is it allows you to have better form by just pulling with your back and then naturally building tension on the release using your back and not slamming your finger down on a trigger or something like that. Like, the only other way to, if you were to try to slam the trigger, you just mash it like this, but it's such an unnatural thing to do it that way. But it's easier to just kind of, you can see the kind of like the white on my thumb as I push pressure on this. It just builds and 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 builds. Bam, there it goes. This blue one I use for when I compete in target archery, because this blue one's just more sensitive. I do not have to pull as hard. I don't mind pulling hard in a hunting scenario, but in the target scenario, and this was my very first thumb release, this 2 Simple, so it's not a 2-finger, which I actually kind of like it. This is definitely my favorite release. But it's just more comfortable in my hand. You can see my pinky kind of fits nicely on the end of it. It just feels super natural. But the spring's not as heavy. You'll hear the click is not quite as prominent as the other one. So the spring is not as heavy inside of this one. But yeah, way less pressure to make this thing go off. This is much more sensitive. So I definitely shoot more accurately with this one when I'm trying to do indoor archery. But this thing is like it can take a beating, which is made just as well. I mean, they're both, it's just heavier. Like, this is heavier than this blue one. So anyhow, hopefully that kind of helps you understand the thumb release a little bit more and how this jaw works. I'm sorry about the crappy lighting. But yeah, it's all hardened steel pieces. If anything ever happens to these, Carter will just take them back and fix them for you. Even if it's an accident, I mean, they'll probably give you a hard time if it's an accident, but they'll still probably fix it. So that $200 you pay for each of these kind of goes into having like a really nice kind of like a lifetime warranty on them. And then this thumb button here, there's a little hex, and then you can actually change the angle of that thumb thing. It can go like further out this way or further back. I like it kind of like maxed out this way because that's where my thumb naturally sits, and I actually don't need as much pressure to get it to go off, versus if it were further up here, I could I don't like this whole curling around idea. I think the guys who are more accurate all kind of shoot it this way and just build pressure naturally. And then there's screws on the ends here that actually control the pressure, where you can actually make it like heavier or softer. So you see cuts all over my hands from being in the woods, man. It's out of control during hunting season. But yeah, man, great products. Can't say enough. I was hesitant to spend the $200, but I'd never give these up, ever. Alright, man, hopefully that helped. Sorry for the long video. Later.